Men often stumble not because women are too powerful, but because men do not understand the hidden levers that guide women's hearts and minds. The problem is simple: you speak, you do not influence. You chase, but you do not command respect. Today we will solve that problem by walking into the mind of Niccolò Machiavelli himself and uncovering how he would teach you to talk to women, not as a fool who flatters blindly, but as a strategist who commands subtly. Welcome to this discourse. Imagine you are not in the noisy world of dating advice, but in a Florentine chamber where political intrigue and human desire are one and the same. Women, like rulers, are not conquered with brute force, but with the mastery of words, gestures, and silences. If you wish to unlock their hidden weaknesses, you must first understand this: every woman has them, but not every man is clever enough to expose them. Let us begin. When a man approaches a woman, his first mistake is often this: he believes he must impress her with a flood of words. He thinks eloquence is his weapon, but in truth, it becomes his undoing. Machiavelli would tell you that in politics, the one who speaks least, yet listens most, holds the greatest advantage. Why? Because words reveal, but silence uncovers. Consider this carefully. Every time you speak, you show your hand. You display your hunger, your insecurity, your eagerness to win favor. A man who fills the air too quickly with chatter is like a soldier firing arrows blindly into the night, hoping one may strike. The true strategist does not waste his ammunition. He waits, observes, and learns where the enemy's weakness lies before he draws his bow. Now, in conversation with women, you must treat silence as your ally. You allow her words to take shape, and you listen, not passively, but actively, with the hunger of a man gathering intelligence. The careless man talks about himself endlessly: his job, his hobbies, his possessions. He is like a merchant hawking goods no one asked for. The Machiavellian man does the opposite. He creates an empty space, and the woman, feeling the silence as a weight, will seek to fill it. She will reveal her stories, her desires, her fears, and even her contradictions. In these confessions lies her true self, unguarded and vulnerable. Think of rulers in courts of power. When ambassadors would speak before kings, the clever sovereigns did not interrupt with their own tales. They let the envoy speak at length until, in their eagerness, they revealed more than they intended. A woman is no different. When she talks, she reveals her hand. What excites her, what frustrates her, what she yearns for but cannot name. And if you are silent yet attentive, you become the one who possesses knowledge, while she has exposed her weakness. But there is more. To speak less is not to be dull, to be deliberate. Every word you choose must carry weight, as though it were a coin of gold. A man who speaks sparingly creates an aura of mystery. She will lean forward, seeking to draw more from you, wondering what thoughts lie behind your quiet smile, what passions you conceal, what secrets you guard. This curiosity is power. It shifts the balance of attention, making her the one who works to win your disclosure. Now understand this subtle truth: women are attuned not only to words, but to pauses, to hesitations, to the rhythm of silence. A pause in the right place can speak louder than a dozen compliments. When you hold your tongue, you give her space to imagine, to interpret, to wonder. Imagination, once engaged, is far stronger than anything you could declare directly. She will project upon you qualities that you may not even possess: depth, wisdom, mystery. And because she invents these qualities in her own mind, she will believe them more strongly than if you had claimed them yourself. Observe not only her words, but her tone, her eyes, the subtle gestures of her hands. Women are masters of disguising their true thoughts in polite conversation, but their bodies often betray them. A glance that lingers, a nervous touch, sudden shift in voice, these are the cracks in the armor. But if you are too busy talking, you will never see them. To master women, as to master politics, you must become a reader of hidden texts, and the greatest texts are not spoken, they are shown in silence. Let us imagine a scene. A woman asks you a question. Do you do? The ordinary man rushes to boast about his career, his success, his plans. But the Machiavellian man answers briefly with poise, then returns the focus to her. He observes her reaction. Does she lean in with curiosity? Does she seem unimpressed, perhaps searching for another angle? In her reaction, more is revealed than in any lengthy speech. And while she works to draw more from you, she exposes her interests and her values. To speak less is also to conserve your authority. A man who is always available with an answer becomes predictable, and predictability breeds contempt. But a man who allows silence to linger teaches her that he is not desperate for her approval. He is a man who listens because he chooses and speaks only when the time is ripe. This restraint is a weapon sharper than wit because it creates tension. And tension, my friend, is the spark that ignites desire. Women, like rulers, are drawn not to the man who entertains them endlessly, but to the one who makes them question, who makes them work, who makes them reveal themselves. By speaking less and observing more, you turn the table of power. You make her the performer on the stage, while you remain the quiet judge in the shadows, and the one who watches learns. The one who learns controls. A man's worth is often betrayed not by his silence, but by the way he handles his own presence. When he sits before a woman, most men rush to prove themselves. They throw their energy upon her like desperate gamblers, boasting of their strength, exaggerating their talents, offering compliments without pause. But what is born of desperation? Weakness. And weakness, whether in the court of politics or the game of seduction, is fatal. Machiavelli would tell you this: the one who rushes forward loses, and the one who restrains himself commands. Confidence is not in the noise of words, calmness of control. A man who appears restrained, who does not seek constant validation, radiates something far more powerful than arrogance. He radiates certainty. A prince who begs his subjects for loyalty is never respected, he is tolerated at best. But a prince who holds himself with quiet dignity, who grants his attention as though it were a gift, makes his subjects eager for his favor. Women, too, are like subjects in this theater of interaction. They admire the man who does not kneel before them, but rather sits calmly upon his own throne. Restraint is not coldness, nor is it indifference. It is the art of discipline, the ability to reveal only what strengthens your position while concealing what weakens it. When you speak with a woman, every gesture, every glance, every pause carries weight. If you lean too eagerly, you show her you crave her approval. If you answer too quickly, you betray that you are anxious to please. But when you allow a pause before you respond, when you look at her with the composure of one who does not fear silence, you establish a frame where she follows your rhythm, not the other way around. Think of the chessboard. The novice rushes his pawns forward recklessly, trying to overwhelm the board with movement. The master, however, plays slowly, deliberately, with each piece positioned to trap the opponent into revealing her strategy. In conversation with women, your restraint is that same strategy. The moment you show you are not desperate to move, you force her to reveal herself. She will ask questions, she will search for your reaction, she will test you. And all the while you remain unmoved, offering only what you choose when you choose. Consider the way power is projected by rulers of old. A king did not walk into his court showering each guest with flattery. He did not beg him to see his greatness. Instead, he allowed his presence to be felt, speaking less, granting acknowledgement sparingly, and always from a position of composure. In this way, the courtiers longed for his attention, for his approval, for the smallest gesture of recognition. Women, in their own way, respond no differently. A man who floods them with attention is common. A man who grants it carefully is rare, and thus irresistible. Restraint is also a weapon against manipulation. When a woman seeks to test you, perhaps through teasing, perhaps through silence, through subtle challenges, the desperate man responds instantly, eager to defend himself. He explains, he justifies, he proves. But the Machiavellian man, cloaked in restraint, does not react to every provocation. He knows that every reaction is a surrender of power, and so he responds only when the time serves his advantage. This calm refusal to be rattled unsettles her, for she realizes she cannot shake him as she shakes other men. And in that realization, respect begins to take root. There is also seduction in withholding. A man who explains everything, who unveils every thought, who lays his heart bare at the first opportunity, leaves no mystery, and what is fully revealed soon loses its value. But the restrained man holds back pieces of himself, not through cold indifference, but through careful control. He gives enough to spark interest, but not enough to satisfy it. He allows curiosity to build, and curiosity is the thread that draws her deeper. Confidence and restraint also manifests in body language. A frantic gesture, restless movements, nervous laughter, these are the habits of the uncertain. But a man who sits still, who breathes evenly, who uses his words sparingly, communicates more than any boast could. He becomes the calm center in a storm, and women, whether they admit it or not, are drawn toward this center, for it feels unshakable, immovable, a place of security and power. Even when you give attention, you must do it with intention. A glance held a moment too long, a smile that fades into silence, a comment that feels measured rather than impulsive. These are small demonstrations of restraint that magnify your presence. You are not trying to win her, you are letting her try to win you. That is the shift. That is the Machiavellian art of cloaking confidence in restraint. The clever man does not confront directly, nor does he immediately impose his own frame. Instead, he begins with reflection. To mirror is to create the illusion of harmony, to let the other believe you walk within their world, that you share their rhythm, their desires, their very breath. Women, like rulers, crave to feel understood. If you mirror her emotions, her gestures, her words, she feels an instant bond, as if destiny itself aligned you together. Yet here lies the Machiavellian twist. You do not remain a mirror forever. You mirror only long enough to gain her trust, and then, with precision, you redirect her toward your chosen path. Consider the diplomat who enters a foreign court. He does not arrive declaring his homeland superior. No, he first speaks in a tone that flatters, adopting the language of the host, praising their customs, their glory. The court relaxes, believing they deal with an ally. But slowly, he plants his own ideas, guiding the rulers toward decisions that favor his nation. This is how kingdoms are influenced without armies. This is how women, too, may be guided, not with force, but with reflection that becomes redirection. When a woman speaks of her passions, the unwise man rushes to challenge or dismiss. He believes that by opposition he proves strength. But opposition too early creates walls, not bridges. The Machiavellian man listens, nods and echoes her emotion. If she speaks with excitement about her dreams, he shares that energy. If she speaks with sorrow, he lowers his tone, reflecting her gravity. In that moment, she feels seen, and what greater desire exists in the human soul than to be seen without judgment? By mirroring her world, you disarm her defenses. She believes you are not a stranger, yet reflection alone is not mastery. To remain only a mirror is to be her echo, and echoes are forgotten. This is where redirection begins. Once she feels understood, once her guard is lowered, you gently pivot. You lead her emotions into your world, into your frame. If she speaks of frustration, you guide the conversation toward how you perceive strength. If she speaks of her goals, you frame yourself as one who shares her vision, yet offers perspective she has never considered. In this way, you plant seeds of influence while she believes it was her own soil that grew them. Redirection is subtle. It does not come as a command, but as a suggestion woven into the fabric of her own words. A ruler accepts counsel more easily when he believes it arose from his own judgment. A woman accepts influence when it feels like a natural extension of what she already expressed. You, the strategist, are the invisible hand that shifts her direction while she walks willingly. Mirroring also deepens attraction through rhythm. Humans are wired to trust those who resemble them. Your posture, tone, and pace reflect hers. She feels harmony. She may not even understand why, but her body recognizes you as familiar, safe, aligned. And just when she grows comfortable, you adjust the rhythm. She leans forward, you lean back. She grows louder, you soften your voice. Now she follows your lead, adapting unconsciously to you. The mirror has become the guide. Think of it as a dance. At first, you follow her steps, allowing her to feel she controls the pace. But slowly, subtly, you change the tempo. Without realizing it, she begins to match your movement. Soon, she is no longer leading, she is being led. And because you began by following, she never resists the transition. She trusts you, for you first entered her world before drawing her into yours. This strategy also protects you from revealing too much, too soon. By mirroring, you gather intelligence. You discover her values, her insecurities, her ambitions. And with this knowledge, you decide what frame to build for her, what story to weave, what vision of yourself to present. Every redirection you make is based on her revelations, not your assumptions. You become the architect of the conversation, while she believes she is simply speaking freely. To mirror is to lower her guard, to redirect is to claim her course. Together, these are not merely tactics of conversation but the very essence of power. A woman who feels seen will trust. A woman who is gently led will follow, and a man who masters both reflection and redirection is no mere participant in dialogue. He becomes its hidden ruler. Curiosity is one of the deepest weaknesses of the human mind. It unsettles rulers, it tempts the powerful, it drives nations to war over secrets not yet known. Women are no different. A man who reveals himself too easily is consumed and forgotten, but a man who withholds, who layers his words and actions with mystery, becomes a puzzle she cannot resist solving. Machiavelli would say it is not what you give that enslaves the heart, but what you deny. When you sit across from a woman, you must resist the urge to explain yourself fully. Ordinary men empty their pockets immediately, laying out every coin of their identity, where they work, what they own, what they seek, what they feel. They believe transparency will win admiration, but transparency is weakness. It is the man who conceals, who allows only glimpses, who holds back more than he reveals, that stirs her imagination. And imagination is far more powerful than truth. For once her mind begins to wander, she creates her own vision of you, a vision often greater than you could construct with words. Think of the ruler who guards his council chambers. The less his people know of his designs, the more they whisper about his brilliance. Even his silence becomes a kind of legend. Likewise, when you do not reveal every detail, when you answer questions briefly, when you allow pauses that suggest unspoken thoughts, you become a figure wrapped in intrigue. She begins to wonder, what lies behind that smile? What secrets are hidden in that calm? Curiosity gnaws at her, and in that hunger you gain power. Curiosity is sharpened when you give fragments, not wholes. If you speak of your work, do not describe it completely. Hint at challenges, suggest importance, but stop short of full explanation. If you share a story, leave it unfinished, as if the ending is too heavy to reveal in one sitting. This incompleteness acts like a thorn in the mind. She must return to hear more. It is the same in court politics. Ambassadors who spoke in riddles forced rulers to summon them again, desperate for clarity. The strategist never reveals all in one move. You may also use curiosity in your demeanor. A sudden smile without explanation, a glance that lingers before withdrawing, a silence that follows a statement. These are all hooks that leave her wondering. The mind hates an unfinished thought, and by leaving traces rather than answers, you force her to chase them. This chase is the very essence of attraction, for desire is born not of possession, but of pursuit. Even your presence can become a mystery. A man who is always available, always explaining, becomes predictable, and predictability breeds boredom. But a man who withdraws suddenly, who vanishes without explanation, who is not eager to account for every moment of his life, becomes fascinating. She asks herself, where is he? What occupies his thoughts? Why does he not run to me as others do? Each question strengthens her curiosity, and each moment of uncertainty increases her investment. Curiosity also allows you to control the pace of connection. Most men race ahead, seeking intimacy too soon, revealing their thoughts, their histories, their emotions in a desperate flood. But you, guided by Machiavelli, move slowly. You reveal layers one by one, never enough to satisfy. Each encounter leaves her feeling she knows you better, yet realizing there is still more to uncover. This sense of partial knowledge binds her more strongly than complete understanding ever could. For complete understanding ends the story. Curiosity ensures the story continues. Remember also that women, like rulers, are not conquered by force alone. They must come to believe they chose, that their pursuit was their own decision. By awakening curiosity, you give her the illusion of freedom. She seeks you, she asks about you, she works to draw you out, yet it is you who set the stage, you who planted the questions in her mind, you who pulled back at the precise moment she wanted more. In this theater, she is the seeker, and you are the prize. To wield curiosity as a weapon is to recognize that absence speaks louder than presence, that half-truths entice more than full ones, and that the unknown always outweighs the known. The clever man does not fear mystery. He manufactures it, cloaks himself in it, and lets it do the work of seduction for him. Flattery is the tool of fools. A woman who hears only sweet words grows numb to them. Praise without contrast becomes empty noise. Any man can say she is beautiful, intelligent, or special. These words, repeated too often, lose their weight. Machiavelli would warn us that rulers are never swayed by courtiers who flatter endlessly. They grow suspicious, even contemptuous. A prince respects not the sycophant who bows too low, but the advisor who speaks truth wrapped in elegance. And so it is with women. Pure praise gains little, but praise balanced with subtle critique creates desire, for it awakens in her a need to prove herself to you. When you compliment a woman without condition, she places you among the many. You become like the common men she has already dismissed, men eager to please, men who place her on a pedestal so high she looks down upon them. But when your praise carries the weight of discernment, when it is not given freely but earned, it transforms. She feels it as a rare jewel, a recognition of her worth from a man who does not flatter idly. The secret is contrast. You acknowledge her qualities, but you also suggest, lightly, strategically, that she has yet untapped potential. For example, you might admire her intelligence but hint that she hides it behind caution. You might appreciate her beauty yet note that it is most striking when she lets her guard down. Such words do two things at once. They make her feel valued, but they also challenge her. She is no longer complacent. She is drawn into a game where she wants to prove to you that she possesses even more than you suggest. This is the power of subtle critique. It awakens her effort. Human nature resists stagnation. We yearn to rise in the eyes of those whose approval we value. A ruler faced with a courtier who praises yet critiques will often work harder to prove his greatness. A woman confronted with such a man will feel compelled to rise to his expectations, for in his eyes she sees both recognition and a challenge. But beware, critique must never wound. It must be gentle, hidden inside the velvet of praise so that it feels like guidance, not condemnation. Too harsh, and you create resentment. Too soft and you sound like every other man. The art lies in balance, enough truth to stir her, enough warmth to soothe her. She must believe you are the one man who sees her not only for what she is, but for what she could be. Even your tone matters. Praise should flow naturally, critique should slip in with calm precision, almost as if it escaped unintentionally. A raised eyebrow, a half smile, a pause before your words. These small gestures turn your critique into something she leans into, rather than something she resists. She begins to look forward to your perspective, because your words carry the weight of discernment. This method also protects you from becoming predictable. Endless compliments bore women just as endless petitions bored kings. But when your words contain contrast, when sometimes you approve, sometimes you question, you keep her unsettled. Uncertainty sharpens her attention. She cannot place you among the others because you are not easy to predict. One moment you lift her higher, the next you challenge her to be greater. This rhythm keeps her invested, keeps her working for your approval. Imagine two men before a queen. The first bows low, declaring her perfection. She smiles politely but forgets him within minutes. The second bows respectfully, praises her wisdom, then adds that even wisdom can be wasted if not acted upon. She frowns, then thinks of him later, replaying his words, wondering if he is right. Which man holds her thoughts longer? Which man plants himself in her memory? Always the one who blended praise with critique. With women, it is no different. When you praise with discernment, she feels valued in ways she has never felt before. When you challenge her lightly, she feels compelled to rise. And when both are woven together, she is caught in a tension that binds her interest to you. Praise alone makes her comfortable. Critique alone makes her defensive. The union of both makes her restless. And restlessness is the soil in which desire grows. A fatal error most men make with women is their inability to step back. They linger too long. They overstay their welcome. They press until their presence becomes dull and heavy. They imagine that constant attention will strengthen their bond. In truth, it weakens it. Machiavelli would tell you power is maintained not only by presence, but also by absence. For absence creates hunger, and hunger keeps the heart alive. Withdrawal is not defeat, nor is it indifference. It is a calculated maneuver, a retreat made not out of weakness, but out of strategy. Consider the general who pulls back his army, not because he is vanquished, but because he knows the enemy must now fear the strike that may come when least expected. This fear, this anticipation, is more powerful than the battle itself. With women, the same law holds true. If you know when to withdraw, you plant yourself in her mind, even in your absence. Most men make themselves too available. They respond instantly, they accept every invitation, they linger in conversations until the spark fades. Availability is the death of mystery. A man who cannot step back teaches a woman that he is ordinary, predictable, easily grasped. But the man who withdraws at the right moment leaves her unsettled, leaves her questioning, leaves her desiring what is no longer within her grasp. That tension is power. Withdrawal sharpens value. A gem shown too often loses its brilliance. Its rarity is what makes it precious. So it is with your presence. If you are always there, your presence loses weight. But if you retreat, if you vanish when she expects you most, you force her to confront the void you leave behind. She will feel the absence of your energy, your voice, your calm restraint. And in that absence, her mind will begin to turn toward you, replaying your words, your gestures, your silences. She will search for you in thought, even when you are not before her. This maneuver works because desire thrives not on possession, but on uncertainty. Certainty is the grave of attraction. A woman who knows you will always be there has no reason to chase, no reason to dream, no reason to imagine. But when you withdraw, you disturb that certainty. You make her wonder, will he return, or will he not? Why did he step away when others would have stayed? What does he know that I do not? Curiosity grows in the soil of absence, and that curiosity becomes longing. Think of rulers who understood the art of scarcity. The wise king did not appear daily before his people. He emerged rarely, but with grandeur, so that his presence was felt like the rising of the sun. His scarcity made his appearance sacred. Women, too, feel this law. A man who knows when to retreat appears more significant upon his return, for she has missed him, and missing sharpens the taste of his presence. But withdrawal must be timed. To retreat too soon is to leave before the connection is forged. To retreat too late is to drain the mystery from the bond. You must sense the moment when she leans closer, when her interest begins to crest. That is the moment to withdraw. Leave her suspended in that state, unsatisfied, craving more. Just as a skilled storyteller ends a chapter at the height of tension, forcing the reader to turn the page, you must end your presence before her satisfaction is complete. This is not only about physical absence, but also conversational withdrawal. Do not explain every thought. Do not stretch every dialogue until it withers. Leave space, leave silence, leave words unsaid. In this silence, she will wonder what else you might have revealed, what else you might have shared, if only you had remained. She will replay the unfinished conversation in her mind, giving it more life than your words alone could. Even in moments of intimacy, the same principle applies. To withdraw at the peak of her attention is to ensure she will chase it again. To linger beyond the point of fascination is to turn desire into fatigue. A woman must feel that you are not bound to her, that your presence is given, not owed, and that it can be taken away at any time. That knowledge instills respect, and respect is the foundation of attraction. Withdrawal is not silence forever, it's silence at the right moment. It is not vanishing without trace, but stepping back with purpose. It is the art of leaving her with unfinished business, closing the door gently while she still reaches for you. For in her reaching, she reveals her weakness. And in your absence, she realizes the weight of your presence more clearly than she ever did while you were near. You now see that speaking to women is not a matter of chance, nor a matter of charm alone. It is a matter of strategy, of timing, of restraint. To speak less and observe more, to cloak your confidence in discipline, to mirror her world only to redirect it, to wield curiosity as a weapon, to blend praise with subtle critique, and finally, to withdraw before she expects it. These are not tricks of seduction, but laws of human nature. Machiavelli taught that power does not belong to the loudest or the strongest, to the one who understands weakness and turns it into advantage. Women, like rulers, reveal themselves not when pressured, but when skillfully guided. If you master these principles, you will not stumble blindly like the many, but move with the clarity of one who sees the hidden strings that pull desire. Remember this: words can be arrows, but silence can be a blade. Praise can soothe, but critique can command. Presence can attract, but absence can enslave the mind. Use each with precision, and you will discover that no woman is without weakness, and no man who understands them is ever without power.